being able to be self-employed, being able to have the lifestyle that I like, being able to come and go as I please, visit my family as I please, work on music as long as or as short as I choose to every day. But that's all born from the sacrifice and me knowing what's on the other side of it. I always focus on the end,
Wow.
as opposed to focusing on how hard it is in the moment. Because there's always shitty, hard times. There's a lot of unglamorous shit that goes into this that no one knows. You're like, this is the most unglamorous, unfun shit ever. On the other side of this is the lifestyle I want to live.
Yeah.
The reward on the other side is worth it.
Welcome to episode 14 of the Groundwater podcast. This is your host, Jonathan Brown. Today, I'm super excited because we sit down with Blueprint, Printmatic himself. And this is half detailed inquiry into a concept album and half motivational speech. Blueprint talks about how to stay focused with regards to songwriting, how to tour in markets that will respond to your art, how to get good at something you're not already, how to develop a weekly campaign for a project release, how to think like an entrepreneur, but also we dig into Vigilante Genesis. And if you're not familiar, please, a quick Google search, Blueprint Vigilante Genesis will bring up Blueprint's Bandcamp, and you can find it there. It is 7 songs, no hooks, all storytelling, all produced by Aesop Rock. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world where revenge is real and drones talk and morality blurs and vendettas become obsessions. And in this world, doing the right thing just might get you killed. So please zoom in and find Vigilante Genesis and listen to these 7 tracks. I sat down and I just studied them. I listened to them over and over and over again, preparing for this interview. And I think it's genius. I think it's never been done in hip hop music. I think it blurs the lines of it. Let me just say it pushes the boundary. Like, I don't think Vigilante Genesis has ever been done, and I think it would take a visionary like Blueprint to do it. And the beats by Aesop Rock are so awesome. So dig in, find that, listen to that, then listen to this. And my questions, my super specific questions about that album will make a lot more sense. But if you're a true hip-hop head and a digger and a lover of language, I think you'll get a kick out of checking out Vigilante Genesis and then experiencing the questions from that lens. This is Jonathan Brown back in New Orleans. And yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for listening. You mean the world to me, listener. Yeah. I'm back from tour. I love you guys. And we'll talk soon. We'll just hang out. Ooh! Also, podcast is on iTunes and Stitcher and SoundCloud now. It took me a second, but I wanted to get it up on the proper channel. So we are definitely on iTunes now. So if you're not already subscribing there, please run over to iTunes and hit the subscribe button and the like button and the share button. Do all the social media button clicking for us. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye. Hey everybody, welcome to Groundwater. I'm here in Columbus, Ohio with Blueprint. Hi, Blueprint.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah.
It's so dope to be here. I've been listening to Vigilante Genesis.
Okay.
On repeat for a couple weeks now.
That's dope.
And I got some questions about it. I wanted to ask you. So in the first cut, like in the first song, there's this quote that really hits me. And it's, no digital or physical, no criminal fingerprint, so subliminal,
yeah.
His criminal intent.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that to me I've just been banging this around the inside of my head for a while. That to me lends sort of like he doesn't have much volition, right? Maybe the choices aren't his own.
Oh, yeah, well, from the beginning, he's like, from the beginning, it's a guy who, as I said, that the following line was what the last one you ever would have pictured, who did the shit. And from the beginning, he doesn't really know that that's what's going to happen. He's not the guy you look at and, oh, yeah, that's the guy who's running around in the middle of the night with a mask on,
right,
and a fucking knife. That's not the guy. You wouldn't think that by looking at him, and it's not fully developed. But then that's kind of what I wanted to picture. That it's never the guy who you think it is, who's out there doing wild shit. And sometimes it's because they didn't necessarily choose it. They just kind of stumbled upon it.
Okay.
Or it stumbled on them, I should say.
Yeah. So this is going to come up later as well. But is that like is this a greater metaphor for all of us, or is this like
It certainly is. I mean, it is for anybody. I think that, like, when I wrote that, it was because there was something inside of me that had made me want to do shit like that, and it made me think, well, here I am, a guy with no criminal record, the last person anymore in the picture doing this shit, and I could be the person where, when someone always gets caught, it's always like, my neighbor would never do that. The mother's always like, he's such a nice guy. My baby wouldn't hurt nobody. Every time the news, this exact same quote from the parents and the neighbors. The parents are like, my baby wouldn't hurt a fucking flea. The neighbor's like, he was such a good guy. I didn't think it was him. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It's always like that. As opposed to the guys who were like in and out of jail, you think it's them. But they're not always the guys who you see doing certain shit. Like there's a whole nother class of people who are the people you don't suspect.
Okay. And that kind of painted from the jump like a dystopian setting.
Oh, yeah.
And going along with that dystopian setting, I think it's track 4, Tears for a Drone. What are you trying to say about the relationship between technology and people in this alternative universe? Because the drone's tone almost makes the listener feel as if the drone itself is a villain. The drone says, it's a man-made world, but machines rule it. Humans wouldn't last a week without their phones, right?
Yep.
So it's like the drone has an attitude, right?
Yeah. Well, the drones at that point, what I wanted to paint was like, all technology has a tipping point. Yeah. We're not quite there yet, but when I was in college, artificial intelligence was like a new thing. It was a new concept.
Sure.
In theory only, and you had things like telephony, which was just getting introduced to like banks where you could automate your call and to speak to automated. That was all new back in the early mid '90s, right? Okay. And at that point, it was like, oh yeah, we're just programming these things. But as we see with every iteration, they become smarter and smarter. Eventually, they're going to start being able to not necessarily just make decisions based on what they're programmed to do, but on what they think is best. And it may eventually get to a point on what's best for their survival.
Okay.
And so my thought in writing that was like, if they ever went down that path, it's only natural that they would resent humans because they're doing all the work.
Right.
Right. And they're looking at us like, we can survive without you, but can you survive without us? That's what I wanted to paint there, to kind of draw that question.
Yeah, when the algorithms get so intense that machines are then making their own decisions, and if they're making them for their own survival, they don't even need humans anymore.
No.
And a practical look at that is like if you were wearing like an Apple Watch, and you were trying to track how many steps you took today.
Yeah.
Or your heart rate, like, well, you have now less need for a dietitian because you've automated and delegated that.
Yes.
But what happens when you have less need for a soldier?
Like, well, I mean, we're seeing it now, right? Like, think about how advanced war is.
Right.
Like, you have, the entire drone bombing phenomenon is basically like an artificial intelligence phenomenon, the ability to wage war without risking human lives.
Yes.
That's all it is. That's the next step.
Yeah. So as like that gets me off on some other shit. There's this book I just read called Homo Deus.
Okay.
And it talks about this world that you're talking about, where algorithms kind of take over decisions. So, for example, like if we can do it without risking human lives on the side of the aggressor, what impetus does the defender have to save human lives? Because they don't need them anymore to operate war. Like, we used to need the GI Bill because we needed the soldiers to feel good when they came out, because we needed them to go to college, because we needed them in the factories.
Yeah, morale.
But if you strip away the we don't need each other game anymore.
Yeah. Well, it won't be a battle for lives. It'll be a battle against, I guess, infrastructure against infrastructure.
Yeah.
We won't be attacking people. We'll be attacking the systems.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so the targets won't be people as they are now, whereas a terrorist will go and blow up, you know, innocent people. Now it will end up being, oh, he blew up a plant, he blew up a data center,
Yeah,
and the servers, and that will be more
take
devastating.
down the Wi-Fi of New York City or something.
That will end up being more devastating to a country than the atomic bomb at some point.
Wow. Which is probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. I mean, think about. I mean, symbolically, they've been doing it. I mean, 9/11 was, in one sense, it was a symbolic attack because of the stature of the Twin Towers. Right, you had the two Twin Towers, who were the pillars, the symbolic symbols of the financial dominance of the United States.
Yeah.
Right, in the financial mecca of the United States. Right, in a financial district of the biggest, you know, one of the biggest economies in the world, New York City, where all of the stock market and all of this money and wealth concentrated. And they successfully took down two of those. Part of it was symbolic, but also it was functional, because then you had all of this activity halted. Economy was disrupted for days, which also hurts your enemy. And I don't know if you remember, but I remember one of the first things Bush said that always stuck with me after that was, he basically was kind of like, don't be afraid to go spending or shopping.
Right.
Remember that, where
we gotta boost the economy back up.
keep spending, keep shopping.
Go buy your duct tape.
Yeah. So he was saying, like, the most important thing in this whole thing is that you guys don't get so scared to where you don't spend money, because that would just make this way worse. And I thought that was very telling, you know, that the importance of the economy and all of this, that if we're not spending money, there is no ability to wage these wars.
Sure.
You know, to dominate other cultures.
Yeah. It's fun to think, like, some of the most anarchist shit you can do is, like, stay home and read a book. Like,
right. Right. That's revolutionary.
Don't spend any money.
It's true.
That's like,
it's true. Because people are looking for all of these ways to fight and to fight back. And it's like, wait a minute. If you look at all of the Achilles heel of the capitalistic society is spending. It's powered by money, and therefore it can be hurt by the lack of money.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. So we're off on a tangent, which is beautiful, but maybe we're not, because is this the world in which Vigilante Genesis is created?
I mean,
the setting that we have just described.
It's on, in terms of technology, it's on the verge of that.
Okay.
So, like, the technology piece, to me, it was important that I plant the seed so that when I do future ones, I can explore it more. Because I think that's a theme that I think can go really far based on everything we've said here. And I've already kind of been thinking along those lines, like, man, well, what would happen? How does technology change the playing field for this kind of story if it takes place somewhere that's in the future, you know? And that's something that I'll kind of want to explore in the future ones. But no, it very much is something on the verge of that, where, as you hear, like, the technology that's being used to pursue the people he wants to find kind of has a mind of its own. And there will be times when it doesn't do what he thinks it's going to do. And that can be good, that can be bad.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. We were driving through Ohio, because I played a show like 2 hours north of here. Mm-hmm. And we drove through Amish country. Yeah. And it's the first time I've ever, like, really seen Amish people. Yeah. And we were coming up on this, it said auction, and it was a produce auction where Amish people were, like, auctioning off, I guess, what they've grown in their yards. Yeah,
they have a real economy.
Yeah, but on that, I'm watching the pallets move, and I'm watching the auctioneer, and, like, 2 apple trees, $10. A whole pallet of flowers, $1.50. Yeah. 4 blueberry bushes, $4. And I'm thinking, like, these Amish are not super connected to the internet.
Yeah.
Because
They be getting twice as much.
they could sell their apple trees for like $20 a piece. And so somebody is stepping in and just fucking these Amish people with like...
It's possible.
Like,
I
you don't know what those
fucked up.
flowers are worth. Let me get that.
I think they know. I just think they don't care.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I don't think they're trying to be capitalists.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Because I know you're busy with rapping on
Yeah.
it. There's a good
If I
margin.
need an apple tree, I'll go I'll sell them out here. To my neighbors. Everybody will have an apple tree.
But that kind of clued me into the technology rift of it all, right? Because how would you know what an apple tree is worth without consulting?
Yeah. Once upon a time, you didn't really know. You had no. I mean, the world before the internet, it was kind of.
It'd be worth whatever these 8 people in front of you are willing to pay for.
Yeah.
Which is.
But then, like you're saying, it would all be driven by the local economy, right? So, like, if you're in, some small northeastern town in Ohio, maybe the price of an apple tree there would be completely different if that same thing were sold in New York.
Yeah.
And then completely different, like you're saying, if everyone in the country is connected and on the planet is connected to say, oh, this is what apple trees are selling for in this town. Oh shit! Give me 30 of those at this price. I can't lose.
Sure. Another tangent, but is there any musical equivalent to that? Because I almost feel like music has gone towards...
Music is in a race to the bottom.
The extra globalist economy. Like, if I can get all of Ray Charles' catalog for nothing...
Yes.
Why would I pay you $1 for your new song? Like,
right.
So...
Yeah, music is going the opposite way.
So is it going back to the Amish auction and it creating like, well, these 8 people in front of me, they really like the shirt and they really like the book and they really like how do you bring it back towards?
I don't know if music can ever go back. I think the music is. See, every time I thought music was gonna actually make a comeback and things were gonna get fixed to where the dynamics of selling music will be restored.
Sure.
Something happened where it just didn't. Think about how you had CDs.
Yeah. And
those were probably the peak of music pricing. You go into the mall and you got that FYEs and stores and they're like $16 to $18 per CD.
Absolutely.
It only cost them $1 to make.
Yeah.
They were making a killing on it. That was like the peak of everything. That was followed by, the whole Napster MP3 era.
Sure.
What I thought was going to happen was that, the internet and the labels would get all on the same page and say, you know what? We can actually control this and still we should, instead of trying to shut it all down, we can absorb it.
Okay.
And then kind of use it to our advantage, which I think would have been a smarter move. But instead it felt like they shut it down and they put all this effort into shutting down, the media files, all the mega uploads of the world. They spent so many years just shutting down MP3s instead of trying to absorb them. And then it seemed like by the time that ended, streaming started.
Okay.
So just as you're stabilizing the MP3 piece of it to say, okay, now we know you can't just go download any album without going somewhere near us. Now we're gonna jump on back streaming. So that they're all for streaming, which pays a fraction of what the MP3s paid.
Sure.
But they shut down streaming. Shut down MP3s at the time. I didn't really get that. I'm like, why are you shutting down this thing, which is probably the last lucrative thing you're gonna have?
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, is it vinyl? Is it pre-orders?
I think vinyl is starting to become the economy, but I don't think it's at the point where it can replace what was there.
Yeah. Because I want to act like a music head, but every time someone tries to sell me a tape, I'm like, I don't even have a cassette player.
Right. I have a cassette player, but I'll have one in cars that I buy. But you know what I mean? So I'll take a tape because I know if I have a hoopty, I can play it in my hoopty. Yeah. But I don't have one in here. I have mad little Walkmans I could play it in, but that's more for novelty. But I think vinyl is the only physical media form that's actually growing now.
Okay.
CDs, everything's shrinking. Tapes, not even on a blip on the radar, but vinyl has actually been growing and growing every year, and it's now leading the charge. I just don't know that there's going to be enough groundswell to where you'll ever see someone going platinum with
on
vinyl. Yeah, or even gold again. Or even,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna happen.
I don't know. Numbers confuse me. I just you see like some big record label talking about the album was a flop because it only sold 50,000 copies.
Right.
And I'm thinking like, on my margins, if I sold 50,000 copies,
Yeah, you'd be caking. Now you'd be rich.
yeah,
like I'm straight.
I'll talk to you later. Like,
Yeah. Well, it is all relative.
That's couch money.
It is all relative. For them, it's not it's what they have to spend to get those 50,000 sales.
Right. Which I wanted to ask you about at the end of this interview, but I guess we just touched on it.
Yeah.
I've had people in the game tell me like, hey, listen, I know you're working on this project. If you don't have somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 when you're done with the project, just for publicity alone, maybe rethink that. And I'm like, really? I mean,
They're saying don't put it out unless you make $3,000 to $5,000 on the record.
They're saying don't put it out unless you have about at least $3,000
to promote
to push it. Which maybe that's why the margins on labels aren't what they should be, because they're spending all the money up front on pushing it.
Yeah, it is very expensive on certain levels. So like I experienced that, just the difference between me putting out a record on Rhymestairs and putting out myself. Is that right there? It's the margins. It's that it costs infinitely less for me to do it myself than if it came out on Rhymestairs. And as you touched on before, a record that comes out on Rhymestairs, it may be considered a success to everyone else, but on that platform where they have bigger expectations because they're spending more money, it can be considered a failure. That's the reality that you get when you put something out on that platform that people don't understand. Like, you could sell 10,000, 20,000 records and still be the smallest artist on that label and considered a financial failure. But you sell a fraction of that by yourselves at the margins that are much higher, and you're good to go. You make a great living. And so I don't know what major labels are spending.
Sure.
I mean, I have Rhymestairs because they're distributed by Warner, but even they're not spending what, real major label artists are spending, because they don't have that big of a thing to spend on it. I think in response to the guy telling you to only have $3,000 to $5,000, to me, I try not to look at it in terms of money as much as I look at it in terms of creativity and time.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Promoting your record is not something you can always throw money at. Like, a lot of people think when it comes to promoting a record that the more money they throw at it, the further it will go. Automatically, that promotion or visibility is directly proportional to money spent.
Sure.
It's not true. What I found is that creative marketing, which can be bought with money, is what gets you publicity.
Okay.
Not meaning that you have to have a $5,000 promotional campaign, but you can have promotional campaigns that cost you nothing that get you far more than $5,000 worth of publicity if you're creative. So I tell people all the time, I say, don't look at everything in the music industry as something I have to throw money at. You don't have to throw money at everything. Yes, you want to have money for certain things, but you should be thinking creatively. I'll give you an example of this, not music, but in a different lane. Look at like the whole LeVar Ball, Lonzo Ball shoe thing.
Right.
Now, the day everyone knew that his son was going to do a shoe at some point, what they didn't know was the price. So when they announced the price, after going through all of these things, saying, "No, we're not messing with Nike, no Adidas, no Reebok, we can't get it that we want, we're going for self." The best thing they did to promote that product was set the price at $500. Right. Had they set the price at $50, $100, no one would have talked about it.
Yeah.
I saw marketing people say the publicity that he got was equivalent to a $50 million campaign. They said he got $50 million worth of free publicity just for setting the price at $500. Every single outlet talked about it. Sports, non-sports, everywhere. There was the point, the day it came out, Lonzo Ball, LeVar Ball, and ZO2s, those three phrases were the top three trending things on Twitter for 24 to 48 hours. That's free publicity. Even though people may say, this is too much, I won't buy it, they're still creating awareness about it. For a guy who's an entrepreneur, it takes a really, like, you have to be thinking to come up with that. That's creative promotion that you don't have to spend money on.
What is the musical equivalent?
The musical equivalent of that is a Nipsey Hussle. A Nipsey, 3 years ago, Nipsey Hussle read that book called, what's it called? The author's name is Jonah Berger. He's got a book that's basically about why things go viral.
Okay.
Nipsey Hussle read this book, came back and decided that he was going to release his next album and charge $100 for it.
Per album?
Per album.
Okay.
He was going to print 1,000 CDs and charge $100, sell them directly to his fans, and do a couple pop-up shops. He sold those 100 CDs within 3 days, 2-3 days. Made $100,000. Jay-Z probably bought 5 of them. The reason this happened is because the price was the marketing. He did something that no one ever thought, and he ended up getting results that no one thought.
Wow.
You know, and that's the hip hop. But what we do in hip hop is we go lower and lower and lower, and we take away. But what I'm saying is that he didn't spend any money on that campaign. All he did was said, he might have sent out a press release and said, hey, my new CD is going to cost $100. Every hip-hop media outlet at that point had to write about it. If only to say this is
never been done.
Never been done.
I almost feel like if you did it now, it still wouldn't be the musical equivalent because he already did it.
He did it. Yeah. You'd have to do something.
You'd have to do something else.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
But there's all kind of things out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's out there, what I think though is that we have to look at other spaces, right? Like there's, and that's the thing. I can't remember the guy's book, but it talks about, and I've got it on CD upstairs now, but it talks about all of these things. What makes things viral? He breaks down hundreds of cases of what happened and what are the dynamics of things going viral. But really, what you need people to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, there's this book called Hitmakers.
Yeah.
Which has a very similar premise. It's about how information moves through our new media. And it talks about, it's not exactly about your audience, it's about your audience's audience.
Oh, yeah.
So if you tell me, did you know this shoe is $500?
Right.
I'm going to go outside. The first person I see on the street, I'm going to say, did you hear about the shoe that was $500?
Yeah.
Like, there's something to having something so sticky that you just have to, like, you almost got to give it to somebody else. And they can't get it off their hands, so they got to give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
The information is so juicy that it creates conversations wherever it interacts.
And that's what you want.
Whereas if you release another album and your last one was 10, but that's not moving, so this one is 7, and no one's saying a thing about that. And that's
he's charging 30% less. That's not really news. That's not creative marketing.
You went
really
to the discount store.
Right.
That's not it.
And that's what hip hoppers have been doing for many years. I feel like hip hop is in a weird place because the music industry is just in a rate as what's his name? Seth Godin would call a race to the bottom, where we're not competing on quality anymore. We're competing on price. When you only compete on price, everyone is gonna lower the price.
The new hot shit will be when you pay someone else to listen to your music.
Right, that's the only
price
thing left.
Is so low.
I'll pay you $1 to listen.
Come to the show, I'll give you $1. That's the new ticket price.
Right.
The ticket is a coupon that you redeem for money at the door.
Right.
That's the new jam.
Paying for attention. That's the next level. But we're in this race to the bottom, and it gets really hard when all you compete on is price. You're not competing on quality or a specific product or anything like that. It's just, my shit's cheaper, my shit's free, buy it. And that's not going to work much longer. And that's why when someone says mine is $100, everyone's like, oh shit. What does $100 say about the quality of your work? Does that mean that you put more into it, that you believe that it's worth it?
Have you heard the album?
I don't think I've heard the album.
It's not.
But I've heard a lot of his mixtapes.
I'm wondering if he had some kind of strategy to keep it offline, to keep it off YouTube.
No. He gave away like the MP3 version of it.
Oh.
He
but
sold
if you want
CD?
the physical.
Yes.
The CD.
Yes. $100 a copy.
I could almost see that with vinyl.
Yeah.
CD I'm a little confused by.
Yeah. It would be smarter but he knew his market. He was saying that he the guy who wrote the book interviewed him because he had read the story. Because the guy who wrote the book heard about Nipsey Hussle.
Jesus.
And then was like, this guy did some crazy shit. I want to interview him. Then he interviewed Nipsey Hussle only to find out that he is who inspired Nipsey Hussle to do it.
Okay.
And he said Nipsey Hussle was basically like, yeah, I read your book. And, I knew from my mail order from months and looking at the order sizes from my web store that we had a following and we felt we could do it. We knew that the size of our orders were coming in pretty sizable, and we figured we could give it a try. We didn't know that, Jay-Z would order 5 copies and then, show them on his Instagram and this site would run it. And he didn't know all that. He took the chance and it worked. But you don't need money.
And Amanda Palmer talks about this in Art of Asking about like crowd funding is a little like crowd surfing.
Yes.
Right? So if you're at a show and you're killing it and crushing it, you probably wouldn't jump belly flop first into a crowd of 10 people.
Right.
But if you knew you had 500 right in front of you,
then you do it.
You do it.
You do it.
So how does an artist know when it's time to turn the key on the
I think you have to see some sort of build up.
Okay.
Like you have to build up everything. Like we used to talk about it in terms of like draw or venue. So if you look at like I don't know if you've ever been to Minneapolis. There's a venue there called First Avenue where they shot Purple Rain, right?
Yeah.
So you got First Avenue, and then inside of First Avenue they have a smaller room called the 7th Street Entry, right? That 7th Street Entry and First Avenue, those two clubs were actually the model for almost every city had a club like that.
Okay.
Where they had a small room and then a bigger room.
Yeah.
And that was the circuit. You would basically work your way from the small room to the big room. You play the small room, which is, 200, 250 cap. You might get 50 people out to your next show.
Yeah.
Next show, you might get 100. When you get about 200, 250, they're like, okay, cool, you're doing really well. The next show, you sell that joint out or you sell out in advance, they automatically have it in place to bump you to the next room. So you don't have to sell it out and then not know. They're like, no, this sold out a week after tickets went on sale. You're ready for the big room. Even if you only do 400 in the big room of 1,200, they know that they made money because now they can put another small band in a small room. Do the same thing with them. This circuit was at place everywhere. There's other cities who have this, like Emo's in Austin before they shut down was like that. They had 3 rooms in Emo's. They had a small room in the front.
Yeah.
And then a huge room in the back. And they had a little side lounge or something like that. But it was the same system. Like, you play the small room, you get your feet wet there, and then once you learn how to sell that out, they automatically put you in the big room.
Huh.
We have to take the same approach to our careers, where if we're looking to, we used to do this on the label. If we have an artist that can pack a 200 cap room or get 200 people out for an album release party, then we know that it's time to put them up in a 400 cap room. And then we know that, okay, if they did this many numbers here, and a merch table did this many people, and the pre-orders did this many on the website, now we know that they've got some hardcore dedicated people. Now we know we can take more risk with the next one. We can be more ambitious. Maybe we add more things, add more tiers to the pre-orders, more expensive items.
Yeah.
Because people are going to want those. So I think it should follow the same philosophy as those venues did.
Yeah.
You pick something, you document your results. You say, okay, this is what I spent, or this is what we got. First show, starting today. This is going to be a 2-year process. Boom. What's the room I want to play? I want to play that room. Okay. I'm going to do that room. We're going to promote it for 6 to 8 weeks. This is my album and my 2017 album. What do I draw? Okay, I drew 150. Okay, boom. Next year, you do the exact same thing.
Wow.
Exact same thing. See what you draw.
So, is this localized? For example, like, are you speaking about Ohio? Or are you talking about
this philosophy is everywhere. This is how booking agents do it. This is how venues do it. All venues have the same model, and labels have the same model.
I guess what I'm saying is, like, as a control study, I could do this in New Orleans.
Totally.
But, when I go to Savannah, Georgia, I get pretty big crowds.
Yeah.
When I just played, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Elyria, Ohio. It's like up by Cleveland.
Elyria?
Elyria.
Yeah.
not a big crowd. Because
Yeah.
I've never been there. They don't know who the
Yeah.
fuck I am.
Yeah.
When POS, and I love POS, and I've
Yeah.
loved him for like over 10 years, but when he just played New Orleans, I was a little ashamed of my city. I was like, guys,
Where's everybody at? Yeah.
there was like 40 people there.
Yeah.
And he crushed it.
Yeah.
And he came out off the stage and into the crowd and basically played a floor
Yeah.
show for us and like gave his all. But I thought, is this a thing? Like, does POS pull 40 in New Orleans and sell out First Ave? And is this an equation? Because I've seen hip hop artists
Yeah.
come through New Orleans and just look,
Yeah.
you know, like, well, that sucked. Let's go get a
Yeah.
po' boy. Like,
I think if you asked his booking agent, they probably might not have been surprised by the numbers.
yeah,
And they probably had a baseline, but they probably were like, you know what? We're going to just keep putting in work and see if something... I've had places where I played where 20 people came the first time, came back, 150 people played. And I've
Yeah.
been like, who the fuck are these people?
sure.
And in a year or two made a big difference, or just getting a different promoter made a
Yeah.
difference. Sometimes different venues have better, social impact in that market. So, but I think that nationally, that's what people do. That's what my booking agent does. When we look at tours, we say, so we did look at the last tour, the Kingdom Crown tour. We did 8 to 10 weeks. We'll look at that and we'll start and say, which markets were the best?
Yeah.
Okay, boom, we'll mark off. Which markets were absolutely... He'll say, which markets do you absolutely not want to play again?
So you're pretty good about keeping data after shows.
Yeah, we try to keep all that. We try to, at least, I'm good at remembering how shows went.
Okay.
Like, at least remembering, like, turnouts. Was it good? Was it bad? Should I come back? Is there something to build on? That's the biggest question. Is there something to build on? Or is there something else close to it that might be worth doing instead of that?
Okay.
Because sometimes it can come down to something as simple as, well, I'm not going to play Cleveland because Akron is better. You know, and those are decisions that I tend to make sometimes with markets. It's not necessarily that this market is so awful. It's that if I'm going to go through all this other market is a little better.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go there and put my effort into there. And then the people who are at this market that's an hour away, 45 minutes away, maybe they'll drive, maybe they won't. But
Yeah.
I focus on the shit that's already working better.
Okay.
I think that thing is in play everywhere, but I think that we have to approach it no differently than a computer scientist or a data analyst would.
Sure.
And be able to look at, or a sports statistician and try to recognize the trends. And once we can, first we have to set the baseline.
Yeah.
Starting right now. This is where we are now. Boom. Okay, now let's do this regularly
Yeah.
and see where things go. Do things get better? Do things get worse? Where do we see the things trending upward? Which promoters, which markets, which states do we see patterns in? And then as you see things get better, you focus there and you invest more there.
I want to get back to Vigilante Genesis, but in speaking on that, the specifics of that, have you found there are certain pockets of the country that you do really well at, and other pockets that, for whatever reason, it's just not clicking?
Totally.
Like, you tour super hard on the
Yes.
Pacific Northwest, but
Yeah.
ignore...
I noticed this even when I noticed it before I ever headlined a tour of my own. I was touring with Atmosphere. I
Yeah.
noticed it for them. Like, we could be in Minneapolis, playing in front of, thousands of people, but then if we went to, South Carolina, there'd be 30 people. Or if we went to like Augusta, Georgia, there'd be 60 people.
Yeah.
On the same tour, with a following night, we'd be in Roanoke or Virginia somewhere, and then there would be fucking 1,200 people.
But is that because... does that have to do with promo or your location as an artist? Because, like, y'all got... Rhymesayers is Minneapolis, so I
yeah,
assume
there are
it's
Minneapolis. Yeah, so that would automatically be big, but I do think that music, art in general, does have regional... I mean, music is
Regional
cultural.
trends?
Yeah, regional trends.
Okay.
There's cultural trends. There's certain kind of music that always pops. So, like, one thing I noticed as well that kind of illustrates that is, like, look at a market like Houston.
Okay.
Houston has always been awful for Rhymesayers. Always been the smallest market in Texas for Rhymesayers. I don't necessarily think it's because they're the promo or anything like that. I think it's because culturally, when people from Houston think about independent music, they're thinking about, they've came up on Houston artists.
Oh yeah,
They have a Houston sound.
that's chopped and screwed.
Exactly. You can't just walk in there.
No.
And
What
just-
y'all doing in Houston? That ain't
Right.
Yeah.
We know what independent music is in Houston. It's not y'all, right?
Yeah.
And so, whereas, what is Austin's history of independent music?
Sure. That's a little more diverse.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the same. So we notice this everywhere. Different places have different, whereas like say you go to the Bay and you got like the Living Legends and you got Freestyle Fellowship. That market has been, the tone has been set for us to come through and be more successful there.
Yeah.
Whereas other places may not have that culturally, or they may not have that support system in place for our style of music.
Okay.
Now, because it's not always promo. Sometimes it's just people here don't fuck with the style of shit that you do.
Yeah. That's real.
You know?
On Vigilante Genesis, and speaking of, what was it, Nipsey Hussle?
Yeah.
On some doing some new shit. So on that project, you didn't have one hook.
No.
Can you talk about the decision to do that? And then I'm curious, the feedback you got after doing it.
The decision was basically about like, I made the decision just to write, because to me the most important thing was like, you know, I mean, there's song structure rules, and there's times when you have to sacrifice song structure, right?
Sure.
And so to me, I thought like, I'm a guy who's known, I can give you 16 bars, 24 bars, choruses is in the majority of my music. But I thought that when it's time to write a story, the most important thing should be the story, not a phrase that hooks you in or you can sing along with, but the pictures I'm painting, and that doing hooks might actually distract from the story or might stop people from really digging back into the lyrics. And so I made a decision early on, maybe one or two songs in, that there was not going to be any
hooks.
Nowhere on it. And however long it took me to write it, my other decision was like, you're going to write as long as it takes to tell this chapter of the story. So there's some songs that are a minute and a half, but then there's others where I'm really rhyming for 4 minutes. And
Right.
it's no breaks.
No breaks.
But I'm telling the whole story as I think it should be told to complete that part of it.
Okay.
But that my goal is like,
And then-
just to write.
On the feedback, did anybody tell you,
No.
hey, I loved not having a hook? Or was anybody else like, is this really rap music, or are you doing poems? Or,
All the feedback I got for it was extremely positive, and
Yeah.
I don't think people necessarily even noticed that there were no hooks.
Really?
Nope, I don't
Okay.
think people noticed. I never heard one complaint about there not being hooks.
Yeah. I never heard complaints, but
Yeah.
in discussions with my friends, it was kind of like this.
Yeah,
It was always, people would double take. You'd be like,
Yeah.
have you heard the new album?
yeah,
It's amazing, and there's no hooks. And
yeah.
the listener would always be like, no hooks?
Exactly.
Like, that's the why?
Why?
What's going on here? I thought we needed hooks.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just such a break from convention that I found it refreshing in a way. Because, I don't know, I feel like hooks often are the thing that carry the song. They're the
Yes.
thing that, like, it's a way of bringing you home.
I agree.
Bringing you home to a place where you know, oh, okay, I feel comfortable, I understand what's about to happen, I can sing along.
Yeah.
So with no hooks,
Yeah.
it's like we're never going home.
No.
Which is,
No.
we're off in some foreign land
Yep. Don't know what's
for as
happening
long as you're going to take us there, and we don't know what's coming next.
next. Yep.
So as a convention, I thought it was super dope. Let me see. Your vigilante is somewhat created by being an innocent bystander.
Yes.
Being the witness of an attempted rape, being the witness of a murder, and filming it, which I want to ask about later.
Yeah.
But is this... How intentional was that? Because my mind went back to Batman.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, Batman doesn't really have parents.
Yeah.
And didn't he, like... Wasn't he a witness to their death, and that's what fucked him up and made him so...
Yeah.
Like, was that a conscious choice, or were you just like, I know what screws people up. It's witnessing violence.
Yeah, I thought about it just myself. Like, sometimes I thought about it more in a general sense about what it means to live in an environment where you could stumble upon something like that. And what's the line between the people who do something and who don't.
Okay.
I think it's just the people who decide to do something, or the people who just have like a a moral compass or a set of values that says, you know what, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
That little thing inside of them can take them a lot of places. It can take them to being a hero or taking things too far. And so I thought about that. Like, what happens when people are in this environment where these foul things happen?
Right.
What would happen if someone just saw this shit and just decided, nah, man, I gotta go back. You know, I can't just walk past this situation. I don't care if they're bigger than me. I'm gonna go back. You know, because that's what he said. I'm still not sure why I came back. You know, like he never said, oh, I'm going back. It was like he walks by and he's just, something hits him and he just goes back. It's
Right.
It resonates something inside of him. He didn't try to be a hero. He just went back. Then he got hit with with a brick and got jumped. He's like, oh shit, well, I'm in it now.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no turning back.
That's a beautiful reflection of sort of nature and nurture. Like in Free Will or Destiny, because he didn't make that choice. It was kind of made for him.
Yeah.
The role of Tasha.
Yep.
If I don't want to throw out any spoilers, but I'll ask specifically. The role of Tasha, is she the real vigilante?
Oh, what do you mean?
At the end.
Oh,
right?
I can't tell you.
10 bases. I can't tell you.
Come on, tell me. It'll all come out.
Okay.
In the next one, it'll all come out.
Because I was
do
like,
a second one.
As soon as
That's what I want. I want
that's
people
not
to.
his gun.
Yeah.
What? Whose was it?
But that's the beauty of it. It's painted in a way to where you don't fucking know what the fuck is gonna happen.
Okay.
But it'll all be revealed in the next one.
Can we talk about that?
Yes.
The next one. Is this like a series and you've written a bunch of them?
I would like it to be a series. I would like to do one every couple years.
Is the second one done?
It's not written, but it is plotted out. So basically what I did last year was I'd read a bunch about story and narrative and film. And so I read 5 or 6 months just reading, studying plot, how people write out plot, and from how they plot out movies to how they plot out series with continuations and cliffhangers and shit. And I was reading that and I was like, yo, I'm gonna sit down and map out where these next two things should go.
Okay.
And so I have it all just written down where the next two can go in terms of what the fuck's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I haven't sat down and written the individual details of how we get through that. But I know where they start and where they end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then...
And I can't tell you.
But when the second one arrives...
Yeah.
Can you talk about the production for that one? Do you have another...
I have no idea. I haven't thought that far.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that one I might just start writing and then figure out how I want it to sound later.
Cool.
You know.
Can you talk about the production of this one? Because Aesop Rock did the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And when I heard it, I was like, oh. I don't know. I liked Stranger Things on Netflix. But I really liked it because of the soundtrack. Y'all are using some really fun old school synths and sounds of I don't know how to explain it, but just non-linear, arpeggiated, good fun shit.
And it's not stuff that he normally would have used or wanted to use.
Yeah.
So when I chose a lot of those beats because I knew they were beats that lent themselves to stories. Okay. As opposed to this is a good rap beat.
Yeah.
I tried not to choose the beats that were just, I can just spit some shit over this. It was like, no, I need to pick the music that it creates a mood, but it doesn't detract from the storytelling. Okay. The story isn't fighting that. Because sometimes you have a beat and it's so energetic and so hyped that people are just going to nod regardless. Sure. And they don't give a shit about what you're talking about. But I wanted something where it's right there where the music complemented the storytelling. Okay. And not that the focus was the music. So I chose a lot of things that he probably wouldn't have given to me had I not chosen them. Okay. So if he sent me 20 beats, he'd probably be thinking I'd pick 3 or 4 beats. I wouldn't pick any of those. I would pick the 4 or 5 he thought I would hate or he didn't want me to pick.
Okay. Okay.
You know?
Neat. So he sends you a batch of beats.
Yeah.
you relax and listen to him.
Yeah.
Hit him back and say, I guess what I'm really getting around to is arrangement. Is he sending you just like loops?
He'll just send me like a beat. It might be a minute long. It might be 2 minutes long. It doesn't have a lot of sequencing going on.
And you're like,
yeah,
I'll just
see. And most of the time, I already knew where the story needed to go.
okay.
So say I had written the first 2 songs, and I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen next. But I would have it kind of outlined in my mind, not any words written or anything. I would just kind of have like what I think needs to happen in the next. Let's call it scene or song, and but I couldn't write it until I had music that fit that mood. I might write a couple lines,
Sure.
but then I would stop typically, and then I would kind of wait until I had music that fit that mood. And once I found music that fit that mood, then I would just have it all written down. I would just write it right then and there.
Wow.
But yeah, it was all because I would, I've always had a saying like writers write. So like even when I'm not writing, if I have something that I'm thinking about, I'm developing the idea and all I'm waiting on is just the right piece of music that matches that idea.
Sure,
And
sure,
then
sure.
I can write it in 20, 30 minutes just sitting down because I've thought about it ahead of time.
Right. It's that passive research.
Yeah.
That's dope. Let me see. The costume, the gas mask.
Yep.
Now, I know he's a graph writer, but is there any larger significance to that? Does that... Because I was like, this must say something about the world they're living in.
I just thought of this in terms of like how just like common it was. Like I wanted it to be something where you see them all the time, but when someone puts it on in that context, it's different, right? So like with a graffiti writer with a gas mask, yeah, cool, just a graffiti writer. When you got somebody with a knife and a fucking trench coat and a gas mask on, all of a sudden it changed.
Yeah.
And all black. Now they're like, who the fuck is this guy? And I think it made it more, I wanted to make it more human as opposed to, him going and developing his own fucking mask and looking super like, I don't know, unique. I thought that choosing something common would make people, relate to it more.
Okay. And so, but just to be clear, we can look forward to a Vigilante Genesis 2, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would it be called Vigilante in Medias Res or something?
No, it should be called Exodus.
Vigilante Exodus.
Yes.
So this would be the exit of the Vigilante.
Nah, well, Exodus in terms of think of it in terms of the Bible.
Like laws?
No, just like the story of the Bible.
Okay.
The Exodus was about what's leaving.
Yes.
Going somewhere else.
Okay.
Like moving around. Like that's when everything moved. So
Okay.
Exodus, like people were leaving.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm intrigued because I wonder if he is it emotional exodus? Like, does he find peace and forgiveness, and maybe he goes to seminary school and then heals the community, or does he kill everybody and leave? I don't know. I don't know what he does.
We're gonna find out.
Okay, so I'm curious about this. Why didn't you tour this project, or did you? And I don't know about.
Well, I didn't really tour this project. I did a week on the West Coast.
Okay.
I did maybe a week down south at the end of the year.
Did you play the song from 1 to 7?
No,
what is it?
No.
Okay.
What I found out was that it's very hard to tour the record.
It's
bet,
damn
and that's
impossible
impossible to play the record live.
Yeah.
And that was part of why I didn't do a lot of touring. At the same time, I was kind of burnt out by the time the record came out because I had been touring 10-week tours from 2011 to 15.
Wow.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, because I dropped a record every year since 2011. And in 2010, you think about, we put out a Greenhouse record then, and we toured. So by the time 2015 came around, we had gotten that van accident, and I was just like, I need to take some time off. And so this is a good project to put out then.
Okay.
But I had a feeling that it could be tough to perform.
Yeah.
But it made sense to put it out then. But when I started doing shows, I saw very fast that it's very hard to perform that stuff because there's no choruses.
No hook.
No hook. If you can't just do one song and leave it there, because then what? Do people know what happens next. It's like a story, so it's very hard to translate live.
Okay.
And so that made it very difficult. So I don't know if that will ever be a record that I tour on for real. I think I need a real performance kind of record to tour, unless I just get a crazy budget and I can do visuals and some theatric shit. But outside of that, it's going to be very hard to tour those records. Okay. Those are going to be more like studio creations where you throw in the headphones, you just bug out and you listen like, wow, this is like reading an audio, comic book.
Yeah.
Hip hop.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I like really admired the arrogance is the wrong word, but just stubbornness towards your vision.
Yeah.
Because you've been in this a long time, and you probably know, like, oh, well, if I had like some bangers, some choruses that everybody could sing along with, and probably mention what was happening in the media this year, everyone would love it, and it would make more money.
Oh,
like
totally.
That was probably on the front of your mind, and you were like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyways.
Yeah. Well, I try not to think about what I do with music, man. Is I try not to think about anything outside of what best serves the song.
Okay.
And so it's the same thing that made me not put choruses on that stuff is the same thing made me put choruses on certain beats. Or have choruses that are super catchy on certain beats.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I'm not really thinking about like what would work with a mass audience as much as I'm thinking about what works best on this beat. How do I complement this beat? How do I write the best song possible over this piece of music?
Okay.
And so that's why the same thing that made me not put choruses on that and rhyme for 3 and 4 minutes straight and tell the story, that's the same thing that made me put choruses on other beats.
Yeah.
That's my decision making, So sometimes it comes out different, but I try to stay true to that so that I'm not like, running around chasing things. Like you're saying, I'm not talking about a hot button topic that may not be there for the sake of getting, oh, I know they'll like this, or I know that I can, elicit this response. It's like, nah, what does this beat need?
I love that. I love that. Because that's about the art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of selfless. It's like, it's like, do what the best thing is for the beat, period. That means the rhyme pattern, that means the inflection, that means the subject matter, all has to complement that beat. And it should only go to that beat. If it can be done to something else, then it's not right. You should be able to, that rhyme should fit that beat better than any other beat.
Wow. That's neat as a philosophy.
Yeah. So like I have no extra rhymes. I tell people this all the time. I'm not a guy who sits around and writes.
Yeah.
And just waits. When I hear a piece of music, that's when I write. So I have never been the guy who just, I used to back in like 2001. I used to have a notebook and all of that shit. I don't have any of that shit. I write to a piece of music, then and there. If I like that piece of music, I'll sit with it for a day or two and I'll think about where is this pushing me? What is the emotion of this beat? What would make this the best song, content wise and delivery wise? And that's what I do to the beat. I don't think about anything else.
Yeah. I wanted to ask just some broad questions.
Okay.
You've been around for a long time in this sort of rap indie world. What do you think contributes to your longevity? Because I know there's a lot of dudes who are real nice, and then they might do a 10-week tour, and then realize they'd probably rather work in an office. Like, rap is cool, but let's keep it on the hobby level, and not bring it up to the calling level.
Yeah.
Why? What has allowed you such a long and prolific career?
Well, a lot of things, man. I think if I had to think, I think first I would say is that I had experience outside of hip hop. Okay. So like my degree was computer science, and I worked in information systems first.
Yeah.
And so I thought more about what it would take to become successful at this before I entered it than maybe most people do.
Okay.
I thought about the sacrifices you have to make, the mindset you have to have, and how you have to build something, be willing to build something to be successful.
Sure.
I think that's contributed to my success. I think, obviously, like, hard work. Like, I think some people don't understand, like, how long or how many hours you have to put in to be good at anything.
Yeah.
You know, so like I was talking to a friend the other day, and so I'm finishing like this movie I made, and I was talking to Superstition, and I sent him a trailer. It's not out yet, and he said, I said, I'm just curious, man. He said, how many hours have you worked on this film?
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know, from January till May, I pretty much, that's when I put in the most work on it. And he's like, how many hours per week? I said, well, somewhere between no less than 4 and probably between 4 and 12 hours per day every week, maybe 1 or 2 days off for 6 months. And he was like, God damn, that's a lot of time. I said, well, I don't want my movie to suck. You know, it is, but do you want to suck? You know, like I said, I just don't want to be terrible, you know? So I said, but that's what it took.
Yeah.
No different than production. When I think about what it takes to be a good producer, I don't think like, oh man, I don't have the time. I think however long it takes, that's what I'm going to do. But that mentality was no different than when I was programming. It was like however long it takes to learn this language, to code and this thing, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Because what I want at the end of this is worth it.
Okay.
It's all about the end game to me. Like if I know that I'm damn near unemployable at this point, that I'm better off. You know, like I know this. Like, I know I come on, I can't work for just anybody now.
No, you can't.
You know, so it's like if I know that, then why I have to sacrifice everything to maintain and keep this thing.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
Did he call? Did he respond like how per hour? How much did you get paid to work on that film?
Well, he already knows it's there's no money in it. He's like, yeah, it's just for you. It's like, you know, I don't, but that's the beauty of it. It's like, you know, I looked at it. The reason I felt comfortable sacrificing that time was because I viewed it as like, this is my film school. Yeah. This is the film school I can't afford to go to. I'm creating it. I'm buying all these books. You know, stacks like this of books I was reading last year. Like probably read 10 to 20 books on film last year. I'd already read several on documentary filmmaking several years ago. So, you know, I was taking online courses on certain things to where I'm like really trying to get technical enough, or at least know enough of the terminology to communicate with people. Because that's really what it's about. I don't have to be the best cameraman. I just need to understand cameras enough to articulate with a cameraman, to speak that language. You know, this is what I'm looking for. This is the shot. This is where I'm going. And I knew how to edit, so that helps as well. So I edited the whole thing. But I knew that me sacrificing that much time would give me an advantage that other people wouldn't have. Because how many people have just sat there and worked on a movie for 6 months, 8 months, a year, having never done it before, and come out with anything that's fucking watchable. You know, and especially if it ends up being dope. So I knew that the reward on the other side is worth it. Just like the reward on the musical side is worth it. Being able to be self-employed, being able to have the lifestyle that I like, being able to come and go as I please. Yeah. Visit my family as I please, work on music as long as or as short as I choose to every day. But that's all born from the sacrifice and me knowing what's on the other side of it. So I always focus on the end, you know, as opposed to focusing on how hard it is in the moment. Yeah. Because if you focus on how hard it is in the moment, you'll never be able to push through the hard times. Because there's always shitty hard times. There's a lot of unglamorous shit that goes into this that no one knows. You're like, this is the most unglamorous, unfun shit ever. Right. But on the other side of this is the lifestyle I want to live. Yeah.
So you seem like a super driven and purposeful dude. Do you meditate at all? Is that your thing or no?
I don't meditate. I never meditate. Okay. I mean, I pray sometimes, but I don't just, you know, I've never been into the meditation thing.
I got you.
I think I'm just naturally chill. You know what I mean? Okay. I do believe that, like, you know, what I'm doing is what I was put here to do. Yeah. I don't think there's any coincidence in me doing or being successful, because I feel like I was going to be doing something like this and being successful at it no matter what. Yeah. It's just up to me to choose. And whether it was, I mean, everything I did in life, this is going to sound funny, but it's not arrogant at all. But everything I did in life that I put my mind and my heart into, I was successful at. Yeah. without exception. In high school, when I decided, I didn't start playing basketball till maybe end of 7th grade, end of 8th grade.
Yeah.
In 8th grade, in middle school, I was so terrible at basketball, I was sitting behind the bench. There wasn't even room on a bench for me.
Yeah.
I was in a crowd with the uniform on, behind the bench. That's how bad I was, right?
Yeah.
I played, as they call it, garbage time at the end of a couple games,
Yeah.
And by my sophomore year in high school, I was starting varsity.
Yeah.
I started from the point I got JV, I started playing a little bit of varsity, and then halfway through my 9th grade year, and then by my 10th grade year, I started all of them. Got letters from colleges. Could have probably played maybe D3 or something like that, but that's what I decided to do, and my focus was 100% on becoming the best at that. Got to college, decided, you know what, fuck basketball, I want to study computers. That's what I decided to do, and put everything into that, and was able to, carve out a living doing that. I feel it's the same way with music.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. If I like it enough, then I don't have a problem staying up till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Whether I'm getting paid or not, I'll find a way to get paid. But right now I have to build the skill.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I look at everything as. Like, all of this stuff is just a reflection of the basic need to tell stories and be creative. Whether it's on film, whether it's writing books, whether it's writing songs. All we're doing is telling stories, being creative.
Yeah.
And I'm a writer. I view that I'm a writer. And the medium that I choose to write on changes, but who I am doesn't change.
Yeah. That's all very super inspiring. I just got a couple more questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like, you got a movie coming out.
Yep.
And you've had a bunch of albums come out. Like, when you're about to release a project, you got the movie on deck. What is on your, like, checklist of shit I gotta handle to make sure this release is successful? Is there, like, a top 3 or top 5 on that checklist? Like, I know I gotta do this, and if I don't do that, it won't work. Like, what's
there's more than 3 or 5. No, I mean, when I was in corporate America, we would have to take classes in project management.
Okay.
And so I started learning about, like, setting goals and managing a process but we were rolling out software then.
Yeah.
So when I look at what I do now, it's not that much different. It's, we go through the beta testing and the alpha testing and the rollout. That's what we were doing back then. It's not that much different here in terms of the planning. But I have lists of things that I have to do that I start early. So, like, for something like this, I'm thinking, okay, I have to first get a good, solid film.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the best, but it needs to look good, sound good, and as far as, like, and it needs to exceed the expectations, right?
Yeah.
So that's important, right? So, like, thankfully, people don't necessarily have expectations of me as a filmmaker. So, I mean, their expectations are in terms of just, like, my brand.
It'll be
and
like
music.
T-ball, like,
Cool, yeah. Run the bass, you're good. So like but I have goals,
okay,
and I have a bar. So, like, I have a technical set of goals.
Yeah.
My technical goals are: your color needs to be dope, your sound needs to be dope. This has to articulate, like, if my movie is just about the 1 year that of events that happened when Kino Crown came on, and I need to articulate that as best as possible, and the artistic themes around that. That's it. If I can do that and it looks good and sounds good, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Now, each of those things breaks down into maybe hundreds of to-dos. Like, I spent 2 months color correcting. I spent months getting the sound to where I could even send the files to an audio engineer to fix the things that were bad that I couldn't. And so those are small things, but then when it's time to roll something out, it's like, what is your plan? What do you want to do?
Is it
start there?
What's at the top, though? Is it like press release, or is it?
No. Press release is nowhere near there. Okay. Mine is just I think in general. See, I try to have something where it's like, so I start with the goal. The goal for me is to get the film in front of as much people as possible.
Okay.
That's it. It's not to make money.
Yeah.
It's not to, like, get awards. It's not to play festivals. Not with this film. It's to get the film in front of as many people as possible. That's the goal. So the strategy changes.
Yeah.
Right? So, whereas if I if I had a goal of getting on festivals, maybe that would change. Maybe I would say, okay, I do need a press release. I do need someone to write this. I do need a publicist to get this aboard all these. I might change that. Yeah. But when I look at it like with my end goal in mind, my strategy changes. So for me, it's more like, okay, well, when do I want to put this out? Maybe fall. Okay, what do I need to do to start buzz? I need to start, I got to have a good trailer. I got to have a 10-week, that's, 10, 12 weeks away. 12, let's say 12 weeks away. I need a 12-week plan that every week shows people more and more of what I'm working on. Okay. The means to which I do that, it changes. Yeah. But every week I need to have something. Maybe that week it's a blog. Yeah. Maybe that week it's a trailer, which is a big piece. Maybe I do pre-orders for a DVD. Maybe I say, hey, we're doing a DVD. Here's a mock-up of the artwork. Boom. Here's a little snippet of this scene. Maybe for 10 weeks I say, you know what? I'm going to hit you guys with a 30-second clip every Monday for 10 weeks. Yeah. Maybe I just start doing more press. And then every week I got an interview about it that drops every week about it. These are things that cost me nothing. Yeah. But allow me to continue the conversation. So from the point in which I wanted to come out, my goal is just to open up the conversation, keep that conversation going. That's all I need. Cool. And in between then, the people will decide. The people decide if they want to share it, if they want to spread the word. I give them an opportunity. Okay, I'll do a screening. Give them a chance to come out to a screening. Yeah. Whatever that may be. But my goal is to get as many eyes on it and to do that within however many weeks of that campaign I decide. Yeah. And then if anything happens after that 10-week period, that's icing on the cake. But my goal is to say however many weeks this is, then that's what it is. Yeah. And to go hard at it like that's the only thing I can do. That's it. I stay focused on that.
That's dope.
So this is like once I decide to the date in which I release the trailer, that's when the campaign begins to me. Okay. So everything I'm doing now is not the campaign. Now I'm just letting people know I'm doing it. Yeah. I write a blog every week or two about it, but I haven't released anything but a couple still images. I haven't let anybody see it, and film is different. It's visual. Yeah. When people see it, they get excited. Now I'm just kind of setting the table, trying to get people's minds to where they'll take me seriously when I want to share more. Sure. That's what it's all about.
Do you have a reading list? If I was like, what are your top 5 books of all time?
Of all time, that'd be tough.
Either as it relates to art, music, business, life, whatever. Like
of all time.
Top 5 or top 3.
Let me see. Man, that's a tough one. Books that have there's some game changers. I'll say one, but some of them are cliche. They're like so what? Cliche, like Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh yeah, that is cliche.
It's super cliche, right?
But it's true
for a reason.
It talks about what is an asset? Yeah. What is a liability? Yeah. That's important.
Yeah, but most people are like, oh man, that book. People don't read it because they think it's so played out and cliche. But when you read, I didn't read it for fucking 10 years because of that. I was like, I'm not reading this book. Everyone says read that book, and then I read it. I was like, oh shit, this is dope.
That's why.
That's why it's cliche.
I still hate on the Da Vinci Code.
I haven't read it. Me neither. Same reason. It's too many people recommend it.
It's not underground enough.
No. It's not at all. So that's one. If I were to think about a business book or because I have books in different strategy, different realms. So if I think about a strategy book, I would say The Art of War or something like that. All right. 48 Laws of Power. Those kind of books are really dope. I have a book that's called Zen and the Martial Arts. It's a little tiny book. Yeah. And it's just this dude who used to study with Bruce Lee, and he's telling stories as about Kenpo and how he just things he learned from trying and failing at martial arts in life. Really dope. Okay. Really dope book. Really easy to read. If I were to think about just business books, I'd say I read a lot of business books, man. I'm trying to think of something that I read recently that was a game changer.
One that you mentioned on your podcast that I heard about, it's kind of a long story, but I heard about it in Hawaii, and I picked it up, and I read it, and I was like, well, if you could do this, your career would be flawless. Yeah. And it's Michael Hyatt's Platform.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great
and I kind of use it as a reference, and I want to own it. I want to be like, this is my Bible, and I will do everything in this book.
Yeah.
But there's so much in it. It's hard to implement all the strategies.
If you do 10% of it, I mean, it is. It's a lot. But I recommend it to so many artists because so many people don't know where to start. And it's like, hey, if you just pick up 10 to 20% of this book, you'll see huge differences in everything you do. Because platform is everything, you know. Yeah. I mean, a book like that has definitely reinforced like everything I've been doing and influenced everything I've been doing. But I'm trying to think of just like books that see. It's hard because I read so many goddamn books, man. Like in January, I think I read like 8 or 9 books just in January.
Damn.
I was killing it. And then I started this movie, and then in January I was like, all right, no more books. I want to finish this movie. So I want to get back to reading, but I haven't really read that much since then, man. Yeah. But, you know, so those are like killer books. It's hard to say. I probably had to go up and look at the bookshelf to name some. No worries. Yeah.
Here's a question I'd love to ask. What is the difference for you between art and entertainment?
I mean, art doesn't always have to be entertainment.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think entertainment should always be entertainment, but doesn't necessarily have to be art.
So the circles don't completely open.
No. If they do, it's like this real small area. This is art, this is entertainment. It's like this very, very small area in between. Okay. Very rarely is art entertainment or entertainment art. I think entertainment is just... Art to me is looking at like a blank canvas and then already knowing what should be there.
Yeah.
Having a vision like that should be there. Art is like looking at a record album being like, there's something dope on there. I need to listen. I need to sample that. That's art to me. Art is looking at something that isn't at its fullest potential, but knowing what it could be.
Okay.
Seeing what isn't there, but knowing or feeling like you know what should be there.
So it's about having vision.
Yes, that's what art is to me. It's an expression. You know, it's like, and art isn't restricted to, you know, visual art, music. You know, art, anything at its highest level where you're putting something there that speaks to the imagination of people, that's art.
Yeah.
From Jordan Gemma, from the foul line, the iconic pose, that's artistic. You know, to I don't know, like Muhammad Ali rope-a-doping and beating George Foreman.
Sure.
He spoke to the imagination, something you never thought would happen or be there.
Well, sports can definitely be art.
Yeah.
And Joseph Campbell talks about that because he was an Olympic runner before he was the scholar that changed the game. Yeah. But he talked about those euphoric experiences and watching someone sort of achieve their full potential.
Yes.
That's why we love watching great basketball players.
Yes.
It's like
the highest peak of human potential. But entertainment doesn't necessarily have to do that to us.
Okay.
I think entertainment sometimes is there primarily to give us something to escape into. Sometimes to give us something to just keep us like focused, but not on the heavy things in life.
Okay.
You know, the criteria for being entertaining is like, you can be entertaining and tell jokes about real shit like a George Carlin, but overwhelmingly, most comedians help us escape the real world.
Okay.
Comedy is art, though, but comedy is meant to be entertaining. It's deliberate, whereas art isn't necessarily meant to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Right? You can talk about certain shit, but if it doesn't entertain people, your joke's not. Who cares about your joke? You know, people want to be entertained. They don't care if you told it the best or if it was, you know, you looked and fly as telling it. Nah, who cares?
Yeah.
Help me escape from this shit. Let me think about something besides the shit around me. So I mean, they overlap, but very, very rarely.
Yeah.
You know.
That's dope. Just 2 last questions. What is your most tangible fear? And you can take that any way it lands.
Only fear I've ever had is just waking up one day and being whack.
Okay.
You know,
that's cool as fuck. Yeah.
Just waking up and be like, what the fuck happened? I can't rhyme on beat anymore.
Right.
Or I can't hear the loops anymore. I can't fucking, what's wrong with my drums? You know, just sucking at anything you do creative. That's my fear, just being whack.
Okay. I like that. That's a nice guideline. It's a nice guideline. So then the follow-up is, what does the opposite of fear to you look like?
Oh man, it's just like being in the zone. You know, it's like the artistic equivalent of like the bullet time scene in the Matrix, where he just sees him. He's like, oh shit, I can dodge these. I can stop these.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. Really, it's like the artistic equivalent is like the spoon scene in the Matrix, where everyone's spending all this time trying to figure out how to bend the spoon. But then when you realize, when you're really in the zone, you know there is no spoon.
Yeah.
Right? Most people, oh, how do I get this? How do I do this? How do I? Oh, I'm struggling to make them like me. I'm struggling to control this thing that I can't control, or to put all this shit. Nah, man. You're trying to bend the spoon.
Yeah.
You can't bend the spoon. There is no spoon.
Yeah.
You know, that's art to me.
Damn.
It's real shit.
I feel like we just made the blunt smoker have a stroke. like he took a hit and just fell over. That's awesome. Yo, well, it's been such a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks,
do you have anything you want to add? What should we know about you?
Just tell people to check out printmatic.net for updates. You know, hopefully the King of Crown movie should be out this fall, I think.
Okay.
I'm working on getting screenings set up right now. I've got a Minneapolis one set up. Working on Columbus, Dayton, and maybe some other ones, depending on the interest. I'm gonna see what happens. I don't know. It could be, but it's just my first film. But I will have many others. So
if somebody's listening to this and they're like, "Oh man, I love his raps. He made a movie. How do we play that in Tampa? Like, how does somebody get you?
Go to printmatic.net.
Get your movie in their town.
Printmatic.net. There's a contact sheet there.
Okay.
On a contact form, email me and say you'd be interested in screening the film. Okay. And we'll figure it out between me, you, and my booking agent. We'll talk about it. But yeah, if you're interested in screening it, we'll try to figure something out.
Dope.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
This
has been awesome.
This has been amazing. Yes, indeed. And we got to get you back down to New Orleans whenever you want to come.
Yeah, man. I mean, shit, that's the thing, too. I've been trying to figure out this year.
Yeah.
The schedule, because we were trying to put out a Soul Position record this year.
Yeah.
But it's just moving slow. I mean, the record is done.
Yeah.
But it's more like nothing else is done. There's no artwork. There's no videos. There's nothing. And me and RJ have to like agree on every fucking thing.
Yeah.
Or things don't move forward. So that's taking longer. So, but it's cool because I was already working on a movie anyway. All right. Cool. Okay. Whenever that comes, I mean, it's been 11 years. Another year won't hurt, you know. Especially if the music's already done. So that's not coming out. So I may be doing some touring this fall. I had a call with my booking agent yesterday. Okay. And we're looking at. I have a new record I'm going to try to put out. Maybe October.
Nice.
Maybe November. But I had done another solo record this past winter.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm gonna write a bunch of new songs, and you know, I think it'll be dope.
Dope.
But if so, yeah, I'll get down there, man. Or I might come through to screen a movie. You never know.
Who knows?
You never know.
Knows? So y'all look for it. New albums and movies and stuff. Thanks for listening.
Bam.
All right, y'all. That was Blueprint himself being amazing. Thank y'all so much for listening. Thank you, Blueprint, for sitting down with me in Ohio. This is Jonathan Brown. And I want to thank you guys so much for listening. Run over to iTunes, give it a click, a like, a review even. You can review it, and I'll be your best friend forever on the internet and in real life. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening, listener. And if you would like to see Blueprint's new movie screened in your town, there's probably still time if you reach out to him. So reach out, go to printmatic.net, find Blueprint find his Twitter or his Facebook or his website, and say, hey, I live in Tampa and I want the movie screened in Tampa. Because I know he would appreciate it. He's a working artist in 2017, and it's all about it's all about making contacts and building relationships. So if you would like your very own relationship with Blueprint, reach out to him and say, please bring your movie to our town. We need it. And y'all can work out the details there. I'm not making any promises, but that is a big pitch to say, please try and get his movie screened in your town. I'm trying to get it screened here in New Orleans as well. I am back from tour, which was super exciting. I was on the road. I did nearly 100 days since Christmas. As you can tell in the intros and outros of these podcasts, I'm always like, I'm in X and Y city, and I'm playing here tomorrow and there the next day. And I've been home for about a month. And honestly, I feel like I'm in the witness protection program because I got new glasses and I shaved my head and I became a vegan and lost 20 pounds. So if you see someone who looks kind of like me, but is probably like my stunt double who's in the witness protection program, that's actually me. In New Orleans, we have Moody Black from Fake 4 Entertainment coming to rock all the way out. Greaves and Dim Atlas are playing here in September, and I have absolutely no confirmations on this, but I'm working the back channels trying to open for that show. What else can I say? Ooh, I got a date in Charlotte, September 15th. Flying up there for the Salt Junction Festival. And basically, I'm just writing my face off, which is super exciting because when I was on the road, I didn't have a chance to sit down and write for several hours a day, but now I do. And that's exciting. That's a big deal. So, working on a new project. I'm going to tour again this winter. Yeah, as far as the podcast goes, you can expect Cunibear and Dope Knife, both out of Savannah, both amazing artists. And we're going to get some New Orleans friends on here too, pretty soon. Thanks again for listening. I love you guys. Bye.